Okay, great. Thanks very much for staying with us. We are now joined by James Creedon for Media Watch. Hi, James.
Good evening, Georgia.
Okay, so first of all, Marine Le Pen's made some rather controversial suggestions. She'd like to ban all forms of religious headgear in France. What's the reaction been to that suggestion?
Well, I have to say I didn't find any support for that move on Twitter and on social media. I wanted to show a balanced reaction, but pretty much criticism across the board for this move. Remember in April 2011, last year, Georgia, there was the burqa ban, the famous burqa ban. This, Marine Le Pen's proposal, would take that much, much further to include all headwear. That's the Muslim headscarf and the kippah. She specifically mentioned those two in this interview with Le Monde. Now, François Hollande said that this was a divisive thing to say, so he pretty much criticised it. Elsewhere across the Jewish media, because the kippah was specifically mentioned, this is in Haaretz in Israel. People getting a lot of reporting on that in various Jewish media. You can see in other media around the world. This is World Crunch, which takes reports from newspapers around the world and translates them into English. Fuel to fire is their headline. Whereas here, this headline, berets only, quite like that one. In other words, you can wear pretty much nothing except a beret, maybe a baseball cap as well. But I think proposals like this, they certainly elicit a lot of extreme reaction because you are getting to a point where what freedom do you have really in a so-called free society if you can't wear anything? Okay, it's about religious symbols of religion. I suppose that's the point she's making. Let's take a look at a couple of tweets on this as well. BFM TV tweeting the reaction of the education minister, who said, well, if we're talking about extremists, because one of her remarks in that Le Monde interview was that she would kick out all foreign extremists if she had the power to do so. Somebody saying, well, she's an extremist, that the education minister is saying that, in fact. And another person saying, why doesn't she kick her father out? Jean-Marie Le Pen, if he's an extremist. So various reactions like that. One person saying here, it's raining, as it has been all day in Paris. I don't have an umbrella, says Chupa Chups. So I put a scarf on my head. I hope I come across Marine Le Pen. So somebody being a little bit provocative, I think, in that tweet.
Now, it can't be any coincidence that she's decided to make these comments now, particularly when tensions between Arab nations and Western nations is particularly strained.
That's right. I'm sure she said it. She made these remarks because she was in part responding to the uproar over a series of Charlie Hebdo cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. That's a satirical weekly here in France where they put up some very provocative cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. This just a week after a very inflammatory film about the Prophet Muhammad was put on YouTube, and it sparked riots across much of the Muslim world. So here in this headline in Slate Afrique, they're saying the Charlie Hebdo scandal. After the crazies of Allah, we have the Ayatollahs of liberty. Now, I suppose that's, as I was saying earlier, a poetic way of saying you can have extremes of religion and also extremes of, I suppose, secularism. And one extreme could, in fact, perhaps inflame another form of extremism. So extremism breeds extremism, I suppose, is the message there. And indeed, a good example of that at the moment is in Tunisia, where there were very violent reactions to the film about Muhammad in particular. And that could see the government, Ennahda, being it could give them an incentive to criminalise blasphemy. So they're, one extreme bringing in another extreme. And indeed, this cartoon, I think, pretty much sums that up. You can see a guy being wound up with a Charlie Hebdo key and, using it for his own ends.
Warnings there of a spiral of intolerance. But
that's it.
Marine Le Pen herself, she's had a few run-ins with Charlie Hebdo, hasn't she?
That's right. A strange twist in this tale. She came out 2 days ago, Georgia, to say that she supported Charlie Hebdo in their bid to do caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad. This was about freedom of expression. She was in favour of that. Well, funny that Marine Le Pen didn't see the whole freedom of expression argument when it came to this Charlie Hebdo cartoon of her. Right? I don't know if that needs much explanation, but that is Charlie Hebdo's impression of what Marine Le Pen looks like, and all in the name of caricatures and humour, right? We should take it off that now, it's a bit disgusting. But anyway, she didn't see the funny side of that and sued Charlie Hebdo. And indeed, she probably won't win that case because French law does protect the right, what they call le droit de l'humour, the right to humour. So in any case, wherever you see these cartoonists being sued, generally speaking, the courts do defend the cartoonist. So we'll see how Marine does in that particular case.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. James Creedon there
Thanks, Georgia.
with the Media Watch Roundup.